across the silent edge of a forgotten moon, where light barely touched broken rocks and ancient debris floated like dead memories. An enormous warship drifted slowly through the scrapyard sea, rusted plates hanging loose, shattered towers scattered across its spine. Its once proud hull now marked with deep scars and black burn marks that told a story of a battle older than any living species remembered. For 4,000 years it had remained there, unmoving, untouched, feared, forgotten. Every empire that ever scanned it received the same message from their trembling machines. Unknown energy detected. Unknown danger. No one dared go near it. Some called it cursed. Some called it haunted. Some believed the ship was a grave for the last of an extinct race whose name disappeared from time itself. And in a way, they were right, because inside the ship's dark corridors lay bones turned to dust, consoles fused into stone-like metal, strange symbols etched along the walls glowing ever so faintly like weak heartbeats. But even after millennia, the ship refused to die. It waited, silently, patiently, like something that slept with one eye half open. Then humanity arrived, unaware of the legend, but driven by curiosity that no species could match. A small human salvage team flew toward the scrapyard, their little industrial ship shaking every time the scanners tried to read the old warship's energy field. Their captain, a calm man named Rylan, stared at the readings. Unknown power. Stable for 4,000 years? How is that possible? His engineer, Mira, whispered, "It feels like the ship is alive," and though everyone laughed nervously, no one rejected her words. As they approached, the ancient warship seemed to turn its hull slightly, like a giant shifting in its sleep, and the salvage team felt a cold thrill run through their bones. When they boarded the silent giant, their boots echoed in halls wider than any human vessel, halls that smelled of dust, age, and something else. Something that made their skin crawl, a faint sweet metallic scent like blood dried 1,000 years ago. They walked carefully through corridors lit only by their helmets, but every now and then, a glyph on the wall flickered with a faint bluish glow, as if reacting to their presence. Rylan touched one panel, and it warmed under his fingers. Why does it react to us?" he muttered. Mira swallowed hard. "Because we're not supposed to be here. Or maybe it's been waiting." They reached the bridge of the massive ship. The chairs were fused to the floor. Skeleton-like remains lay scattered across the control pit. Some consoles were melted as if something powerful had surged through them during the ship's final battle. But one console, just one, remained untouched, covered in dust yet whole, its surface etched with worn symbols. Rylan brushed the dust away. The console hummed. The lights flickered once. Then again. The ship trembled. The salvage team stumbled back. Mira shouted, "Stop! Captain! Step away!" But Rylan couldn't move. Something held him, not physically, but by presence, like the ship itself was watching him. Then a deep vibration rolled through the entire warship like a heartbeat awakening after centuries of silence. The floor shook gently, dust falling from the ceiling. Pipes along the walls glowed faint blue. And then, every symbol in the room lit up, one after another, like stars turning on after a long night. The team panicked. "It's waking up. We need to get out. We triggered something." Alarms on their suits beeped wildly as the ship's energy field increased exponentially. Rylan stepped back, finally breaking free of the strange pull. But now the entire warship thrummed with life like a creature stretching its limbs after a very long sleep. The salvage ship outside registered the surge. "Human team, your vessel is going active. Repeat. Your structure is powering up." Before they could escape, the warship sealed its entrances. Doors slid shut with a hiss. Lights along the halls brightened until the long-dead vessel felt alive again. The salvage team froze in place as a deep sound echoed from the ship's center. A sound like a voice, ancient and broken, whispering through metal. And then something unimaginable happened. The ship shifted, not like a machine, like a living thing. Panels straightened. Rust flaked off like dead skin. Plates reformed themselves. Lights flowed across the hull like veins reawakening. Outside, Sensors screamed warnings as the entire massive vessel slowly lifted from the scrapyard field, shaking debris loose as it rose above the dead moon. The ship moved as if remembering flight. It flexed its giant wings of metal. It let out a pulse that rattled the nearby asteroids. The galaxy had abandoned it to rust. But humans, with their stubborn curiosity and reckless bravery, had awakened something no species had dared touch for thousands of years. Rylan and his crew stood on the bridge, terrified yet mesmerized, as the ship's ancient systems played memory projections. Flickers of a lost civilization fighting something monstrous in deep space, screams echoing through corridors, weapons firing beams that tore apart stars. A desperate last stand as their world burned. Mira gasped. This ship, it fought something unimaginable. Rylan whispered. And it survived. The console glowed brighter. A symbol flashed, unknown yet somehow familiar. Then energy surged through the ship, linking its systems to the human salvage vessel in a way no technology should allow. It was bonding, choosing, accepting. What the galaxy left to rot, humanity reclaimed, and the warship responded like a loyal beast finding a new master. The moment the ship fully activated, its power signature erupted across nearby star systems like a beacon. Sensors all around the region detected an impossibly strong energy spike. Council patrol ships panicked. Empires scrambled their fleets. And scientists everywhere stumbled over their instruments as readings began to overload. One terrified voice reported across a commnet, "The ancient relic, it's awake, it's moving, and it's under human control." The moment that message spread, fear rippled across the galaxy. Because everyone knew the stories. Everyone knew why no one touched that ship. They knew its creators died fighting something that should never return. They knew the ship was not made for war. It was made for survival. For warning. And now humanity had awakened it. The massive vessel stabilized itself above the dead moon. Its engines glowing with ancient blue energy that bent space itself. Its newly restored hull shining like polished obsidian in the faint light. Rylan stared out the viewport, feeling the ship's hum resonate in his bones. "You're alive," he whispered. Mira swallowed hard. "Not just alive. It's choosing us." The warship turned slowly, as if testing its mobility, then aligned itself with the stars ahead. Stars that had not seen its shadow for 4 millennia. What the galaxy had abandoned had risen again. And when the ship walked the stars once more, when its colossal form glided into open space with the grace of a beast reborn, the universe felt a strange shift, a ripple of destiny, as if something powerful had returned to the game. The Council received the first transmission with trembling hands. The Harrow-class vessel is active. Humanity controls it. Across the galaxy, voices whispered in fear. The deadliest ship ever built is alive again. What have the humans done? What will happen now? And somewhere, buried deep inside the ship's core, a second heartbeat began to echo. The heartbeat of something waiting, something ancient, something that sensed its new masters and prepared to fight again. The universe did not know it yet. But the moment that ship awakened, everything changed as the ancient warship, now humming with new life, floated above the dead moon. The human salvage team felt something strange flowing through the metal floors under their boots, like a heartbeat pulsing slowly, almost in sync with their own breaths, as if the ship itself were adjusting to them, studying them, trying to understand its new visitors. Inside the bridge, lights that had slept for 4,000 years now warmed with a soft blue glow, and each console that once belonged to the extinct Arcanes responded gently to human touch, reshaping panels, widening displays, and rewriting forgotten symbols into readable forms, almost as if translating its past into a language its new guardians could finally understand. Rylan moved across the pristine surface, awe tightening his chest. "It's learning us," he whispered, watching symbols shift from alien glyphs to simplified human patterns. Mira placed her palm on a nearby console, and it rippled under her hand like water disturbed by a breeze, glowing brighter wherever her skin touched it. "It's alive," she breathed, voice trembling not in fear but in sheer wonder. "It's not just reacting, it's bonding." The warship responded instantly. The walls shivered. A low hum vibrated through the entire structure, and the hollow, rusted sound it once carried transformed into a deep, steady frequency that felt almost warm, almost protective, like a guardian recognizing its new family. In the engineering bay, human technicians discovered something even more shocking. Broken plates of armor regenerating, fragments of shattered hull merging back together, rust dissolving into dust as new metal grew in its place. They watched in disbelief as a cracked beam slowly knit itself whole, glowing bright blue as strands of energy weaved through it like veins. "Ships don't do this," one engineer whispered, stepping back as a ruptured panel healed right before his eyes. "Not even human ones." Mira examined the phenomenon carefully. "This is not machinery," she said, voice shaking with realization. "This is biology and technology fused. The Arcanis didn't build this ship, they grew it." That truth struck them deeper than any fear. Harrow, though the name had not yet been spoken, was not a dead relic or a rusted weapon. It was a living construct waiting for someone to wake it, waiting for someone to care, waiting for someone to finish what its creators could not. Meanwhile, Rylan accessed the ship's memory root, a dark crystalline core pulsing rhythmically in the center of the bridge, surrounded by ancient tendrils of metal slowly unraveling like vines awakening from centuries of sleep. The instant his hand hovered near it, the core brightened, projecting a soft halo of light around him. Then the memories began to play. Ghostly visions flickered across the chamber. Tall Arcanis figures moving gracefully through corridors now filled with dust. Children laughing in long-forgotten playrooms. Fleets launching into star-bright skies. Scientists whispering warnings about a coming darkness. Soldiers shouting battle cries as their world burned. Mira covered her mouth, tears forming as she watched the destruction of a species no one even remembered. "They knew they were dying," she whispered. "They built this ship to survive or carry a message." Harrow showed its last memories. A violent battle, a monstrous enemy devouring stars, screams echoing through halls as the Arcanis transferred everything into the ship's core before sealing it and sending it into the void. Then the projection ended. Silence fell across the humans. Rylan spoke first, voice heavy and soft. "They trusted this ship to outlive them." Mira nodded. "And now it's trusting us." As if responding, the ship released a deep chime that resonated from engine room to command deck. Panels across the halls shifted, opening pathways that had been sealed for thousands of years. Stairways straightened. Broken lights reformed into glowing crystal rods. Entire sections of the ship awakened room by room, each one adjusting temperature, gravity, lighting, like it was preparing to serve a crew again. And then something even more shocking happened. The ship extended a tendril-like interface from its central console. Thin, metallic, fluid, moving like a living limb toward Rylan. It hovered inches from his hand. Rylan felt every instinct scream at him to step back, but something deeper held him still. Slowly, he reached out and touched the tendril. A surge of information burst through his mind. Not overwhelming, but gentle, like the ship was carefully choosing what to share. He saw energy flow maps, star routes, gravitational diagrams, weapon schematics, dimensional algorithms, and something else, a faint outline of a threat lurking beyond the edges of known space. When he pulled his hand away, shaking, the tendril retracted smoothly, curling back into the console like a creature settling down. "It's showing us what it needs," he whispered. Mira swallowed. "What does it need?" Rylan stared at the glowing memory core. "A crew." The ship's lights brightened instantly, confirming it. Harrow was choosing humanity, not because they were the strongest species, not because they were the smartest, but because humans had touched it without fear. Others had seen danger. Humans saw possibility. Others abandoned it. Humans woke it. And the ship responded to that courage with a loyalty deeper than metal or programming. It responded with purpose. Outside the vessel, cosmic frost broke off its hull as newly regenerated engines released a low thrum, adjusting themselves as if stretching mechanical limbs after a long sleep. Inside the ship, the heartbeat-like hum synchronized with the humans' breathing patterns, calming their bodies, easing their fear, gently guiding them deeper into understanding. The ship wanted them there. trusted them now. It had been alone in the dark too long. Rylan stood at the command pedestal, watching runes adapt into clear, human-readable text. A single word appeared, glowing warm blue, Harrow. The ship had given them its name. Mira touched the letters softly. "Welcome back," she whispered, and the ship pulsed with faint light as if smiling. Deep in the forgotten engine core, long-dead machinery roared back to life. Power surged. Stars reflected across their windows. Harrow angled itself upward, toward open space, ready to leave the scrapyard at last. The galaxy had left it to rust. Humanity had given it purpose. And together, ship and crew were about to change the fate of the stars forever as Harrow rose from the scrapyard like a giant shaking off centuries of dust and sorrow. Its massive shadow stretched across the dead moon's surface, sending long beams of ancient blue energy swirling across space. And those beams traveled far, farther than anyone expected, reaching the eyes of every sensor, probe, and listening post across the border systems. The first to detect it were the Vexry scouts stationed in the nearby trade sector. Their scanners began to overload as readings spiked beyond normal limits, flashing warnings that no machine had ever displayed: unclassified energy form, extreme power signature, unknown vessel activating. The Vexry captain stared at the screen, trembling. This can't be real. The relic is awake. And when they zoomed in with long-range magnifiers, they saw it. Harrow glowing like a beast reborn, metal plates shifting like living armor, runes glowing with light that pulsed like a heartbeat. "Who controls it?" the captain whispered. When the answer came, "Humans." The entire Vexry Council panicked. Within minutes, the news spread across 12 star systems, whispered through underground channels, transmitted on emergency frequencies to the Galactic Council, and soon every major empire received the same chilling report. The ancient warship is active. Humans control it. Shock turned into fear. Fear turned into jealousy. Jealousy turned into rage. In the council chamber, ambassadors shouted in disbelief. How did humans get it? Why did the ship respond to them? Exterminate them before they learn its secrets. But fear twisted deeper when more reports flowed in. Harrow's energy levels kept rising. The ship wasn't just repaired. It was evolving. The Brozak general slammed his fist on the table, claws trembling. If humans fully unlock that ship, no empire will stand against them. The Zorith priestess whispered in terror. That ship was built by the Arcanis, the ones who vanished. If their greatest creation has chosen humanity, then something terrible is coming. Meanwhile, on distant worlds, civilian screens flickered with emergency broadcasts showing blurry images of Harrow lifting itself above the moon like a titan reborn. Children stared in awe. Elders shook in fear. Pilots whispered among themselves. Humans woke it. They woke the ship of the lost. As these messages spread, empires began mobilizing fleets. Patrols were sent. Warships activated weapons. Secret orders circulated behind closed doors. Watch the humans. Stop them if necessary. But all their attempts to approach Harrow ended in humiliation. The first council patrol to intercept the humans arrived with 6 advanced cruisers. They approached cautiously, weapons hot, scanners struggling to read Harrow's growing energy field. Identify yourselves, the patrol commander barked, voice cracking under pressure. Inside Harrow, Rylan felt the ship stiffen, not in fear, but in ancient memory, as if remembering countless battles against enemies who came with the same tone of arrogance. Harrow projected a soft warning hum, and symbols flashed across its hull. The human crew felt energy swirling through the walls. It's defending itself, Mira whispered. It's preparing something. Outside the ship, the patrol cruisers suddenly lost control. Engines stuttered, shields collapsed, weapons shut down. The commander screamed over comms. We're losing systems. What is this? Harrow didn't fire a single shot. It simply bent space around the cruisers, twisting gravity just enough to disable their machines without harming the crew. The cruisers drifted helplessly, powerless and embarrassed, floating like toys before a giant. The council watched the footage in horror. It disabled our ships without attacking. No vessel can manipulate gravity like that. Humans can't possibly understand that technology. But Harrow did. And Harrow had chosen humanity. The galaxy wasn't ready for that. Within hours, entire governments issued warnings. Trade routes closed. Armies were deployed. Some species even considered preemptive strikes against human space, afraid that Harrow's awakening meant humanity was preparing for conquest. But the humans had no such intention. They were still trying to understand the ship themselves. Yet fear twisted every truth. In the dark halls of the council, a quiet voice whispered, "If the Arcani's ship has selected humans as its new masters, then they must have something inside them, something even the Arcanis trusted." That thought terrified the council more than anything else. On Harrow's bridge, the human crew watched incoming transmissions. Some desperate, some angry, some begging for explanation. Ryland stared at the starfield. "They fear us already," he said softly. Mira nodded. "They fear Harrow. They fear the unknown." But Harrow pulsed, projecting a hologram of distant space. A region filled with swirling darkness, faint trails of energy, hints of something moving far beyond normal scanners. "It's showing us something," Mira whispered. The projection zoomed closer, revealing an outline of a creature made of shadows and light, devouring a falling star. Ryland's blood ran cold. That's what killed the Arcanis. The ship pulsed again, stronger this time, as if urging them forward. The galaxy reacted with fear, but Harrow reacted with purpose. The humans finally understood. The awakening wasn't an accident. The ship didn't choose humanity out of chance. It woke because something was coming. Something the galaxy wasn't ready for. Something only Harrow remembered. And something only humanity had the heart to face. Meanwhile, across the stars, alien fleets gathered, their commanders trembling, preparing for a war they didn't understand. Because from their perspective, one truth was terrifyingly clear. The deadliest ship ever built was not just awake. It was loyal to humanity. Deep within Harrow's core, where ancient metal veins glowed like rivers of frozen lightning and whispers of ghosts echoed through energy circuits older than most stars, humanity discovered something far more terrifying than anything they had seen on the bridge. Something alive, something waiting, something watching them from the memory of a civilization, long turned to dust. The moment Ryland stepped through the central gateway into the core chamber, the air thickened, the lights dimmed, and Harrow's humming shifted into a slow, mournful tone, like a creature remembering pain it had buried for thousands of years. The chamber itself was enormous, circular, its walls covered with crystalline memory structures that pulsed faintly with blue light, creating the illusion of starlight frozen inside glass. Mira walked behind him, her eyes wide as she watched symbols ripple across the walls like waves responding to her heartbeat. "It feels emotional," she whispered. Ryland nodded, his voice low. "Harrow is alive, and it remembers." Then the core awakened fully. A beam of pale blue light shot down from the ceiling, engulfing the center of the room, spinning slowly until it formed a holographic figure. Tall, elegant, with elongated limbs and glowing white eyes, the unmistakable silhouette of an Arcanis, the extinct species whose blood had once flowed through these halls. The figure flickered, glitching between thousands of fragmented memories, but its voice, soft, deep, ancient, remained steady. "If you see this, then we are gone." Mira felt tears in her eyes. Even after 4,000 years, the Arcanis projection carried pain so real it felt alive. Ryland stepped forward. "What happened to your people?" The hologram trembled, and the walls around them lit up with thousands of images. Arcanis cities shining with silver towers, children laughing, scientists creating wonders, fleets dancing among the stars. And then the images twisted violently into scenes of horror. Shadows spilled through cities like living storms. Stars collapsed. Ships were torn apart by invisible claws. Worlds screamed as darkness swallowed them whole. "They came from outside creation," the Arcani's voice said. "A species without matter, without form. A swarm born from broken dimensions." The memory shifted to a vision of the swarm. vast black shapes swirling like liquid night, forming tendrils, wings, eyes without pupils, bodies made of void energy that bent reality wherever they passed. Mira covered her mouth, trembling. "What are they?" The hologram responded, voice cracking with ancient dread. "We called them the Eraphim, the Eaters of Stars." Suddenly the walls ignited with scenes of the last Arcani's battles. Harrow leading fleets of shining ships into impossible fights, firing weapons that shattered space, trying desperately to protect their collapsing worlds. But the Eraphim kept coming. Each death only made them stronger. Each fallen star only fed their hunger. Ryland's heart tightened as he watched Harrow, young and unscarred, diving into battle again and again, its glowing wings protecting fleeing civilians, absorbing hit after hit until its armor cracked and its core dimmed. "They were too strong," the hologram whispered. "We fought until our sons died. But they never stopped." The humans watched Harrow's creators sacrifice their final fleets, merge their consciousness into memory crystals, pour their last hope into one ship, this ship. "We built Harrow as our final voice," the Arcani's projection continued, "a vessel to survive the fall and warn whoever finds it." The hologram turned slowly toward Rylan and Mira, its glowing eyes heavy with sorrow. "We never expected it to be you. But if our ship chose you, then you must listen." Harrow pulsed, sending a vibration through the floor that echoed like a heartbeat matching Ryland's chest. The room darkened, then lit again, revealing a map of the galaxy. One corner glowed with human space, another flickered with council territories. But a far, distant edge burned red, the edge where the Eraphim had first appeared. Mira stepped closer, her hands trembling. "Is that movement?" The red area pulsed, expanded, spread slowly like spilled ink creeping across parchment. The hologram whispered, "The Eraphim never died. They only slept. And now, they are waking again." The air inside Harrow thickened with fear, raw, sharp, ancient, fear that wasn't human. But Arcani's fear preserved in the ship's memory. Rylan closed his eyes as the meaning struck him. "The council thinks we woke Harrow." He opened his eyes again. But Harrow woke itself, because the Eraphim are returning. Harrow responded with a deep booming hum that shook dust from the walls, as if confirming the truth. The ship's transformation wasn't random. His bonding with humans wasn't luck. It needed a crew because the threat that killed its creators was back. And humanity had awakened just in time. Mira whispered, voice cracking, "We have to tell the council." But the hologram shook its head. "They will not listen. They fear what they do not control." Harrow pulsed again, this time brighter, stronger, projecting images of council ambassadors arguing, denying, panicking, fighting over power instead of preparing for danger. The Arcani's projection raised its hand one last time. "We leave our legacy to you. Harrow will guide you. But you must be ready to face the darkness we failed to stop." The hologram faded slowly, dissolving into a swirl of gentle blue particles that sank into the core like tears disappearing into the sea. Ryland stood still, absorbing the weight of what he had just learned. "We're not just salvagers anymore," he whispered. "We're inheritors of a dead civilization." Mira nodded, voice barely above a breath. "And Harrow is their last hope." Suddenly, Harrow's engines roared to life, massive energy spiraling through its veins as more memory locks broke open. Panels reshaped, armor thickened, ancient runes rewrote themselves in fresh glowing patterns. The ship responded to the truth the same way a warrior responds to the sound of a distant battle. Awake, alert, preparing. Rylan placed his hand on the core. It pulsed warmly beneath his palm. "We won't let your creators down," he said quietly. Mira stepped beside him. "We'll finish what they started." Harrow lit up with a brilliant surge, almost like a nod. The past had finally been revealed. The warning had been given. And as the humans stood inside the heart of the greatest ship ever grown, they realized the terrifying responsibility placed upon them. They were the first species since the Arcanis to stand between the Eraphim and the galaxy. And Harrow had chosen them for war as Harrow finished revealing its creator's final memories. A sudden tremor ran through the ship like a cold shiver traveling down the spine of a giant, and every light inside the vessel flickered in warning, as if something in the universe had just shifted. Something old and hungry stretching across space for the first time in thousands of years. Rylan looked around in confusion, feeling an icy pressure settle on his chest. A pressure that didn't belong to any natural phenomenon. Mira checked the consoles, eyes widening as readings spiked off the charts. "Something's happening in the outer quadrant of the Orion Rift," she whispered, voice trembling. "Energy levels are rising. No, they're breaking every limit." Harrow let out a deep, rising hum that felt almost like fear, and when the ship itself shows fear, the universe should worry. The central projection activated on its own, projecting a star map across the entire bridge. A single red point pulsed violently at the edge of known space. Then the map zoomed in. A star, bright moments ago, collapsed into darkness. Its light devoured instantly as if someone had pinched a flame between cold fingers. Rylan stepped forward. That was a living star, just gone. But before he could finish, another star fell. Then another. Within minutes, 3 systems had gone dark. All without explosions. All without warning. Like something was swallowing the light itself. Mira gasped in horror. "They're here. The Eraphim are waking." As if reacting to her words, a tear appeared in the projected map. A swirling black wound tearing open space itself, expanding like a breathing cavity of night. And from that tear poured the first wave of the Eraphim swarm. They did not move like ships. They did not fly like creatures. They slid through reality like liquid shadows, bodies constantly shifting. Sometimes winged, sometimes clawed, sometimes shapeless storms of needle-like void energy. Their very presence bent gravity. Their screeches rippled through subspace, making comms distort and lights flicker. Harrow's walls vibrated sharply, as if recognizing an ancient predator returning to the hunt. The ship's hum deepened into a growl. "Harrow is afraid," Mira whispered, hugging her arms tightly. "It remembers them." The Eraphim swarmed toward the nearest colony world, Vala's Prime, home to 40 million lives. Council defense fleets rushed in panic, but their weapons passed through the shadows like vapor, their lasers slicing only empty void. The Eraphim moved faster, darker, devouring the colony's orbital defenses in seconds. Harrow suddenly projected a real-time feed of Vala's Prime skies. Cities trembling as the darkness seeped in, mothers clutching children while shadows crawled over the horizon, soldiers firing uselessly into the void, screaming as the creatures passed through metal and armor like smoke through broken glass. Rylan clenched his fists. "They'll destroy everything. We have to act." Mira stared at him, eyes wide with a mix of terror and determination. "Harrow chose us for this. We're the only ones who know what's coming." As if answering her, Harrow's engines roared with a fury they had never displayed before. The entire ship vibrated with power older than the galaxy itself, dimensional engines lighting up like ignited suns. Systems came online, ancient ones, terrifying ones. Weapons the Arcanis never got to use. Armor plates grew thicker, interlocking like scales of a cosmic beast. Energy cores flared, 8 of them, glowing blue-white, shaking the air. Harrow opened its wings, massive curved limbs extending from its sides, humming with power capable of tearing through dimensions. The humans stared in awe. "It's transforming," Rylan whispered. "It's preparing to fight." Harrow launched itself into space with a burst of hyperdimensional energy so powerful that the dead moon beneath it cracked in half, scattering dust and debris into the void. The ship sliced through space, appearing near Vala's Prime in seconds, using a form of travel humanity had never seen, something between teleportation and bending the universe like fabric. The Council fleet was still fighting, but it was hopeless. Ships exploded silently as Eraphim tendrils pierced them. Cries for help filled every channel. "They're everywhere. Nothing hurts them. We're losing the planet. Someone help." And then a new signal appeared, calm, composed, unmistakably human. Rylan's voice. "Harrow is here." Every alien captain froze. Every scanner overloaded as Harrow appeared in front of the swarm, towering, glowing, wings outstretched, its presence alone bending the battlefield into a new shape. The Seraphim turned toward the ship as one, recognizing their ancient rival. They screeched soundlessly, swarming forward in a tidal wave of darkness meant to crush the ancient vessel once and for all. But Harrow did not retreat. Harrow sang. A deep, resonant vibration erupted from its core, echoing across the void, vibrating through every ship, every planet, every heart that heard it. The Seraphim recoiled for the first time in thousands of years. Harrow opened its weapon arrays, massive circular rings along its wings that glowed with pure starcore energy. The rings spun faster, faster, until the light became a blinding halo. Then Harrow fired. Not lasers, not missiles, dimensional blades, beams of energy so sharp they tore holes in space itself, slicing through the Seraphim swarm like scissors through dark smoke, unraveling their forms, collapsing them into fragments of broken void. The battlefield shook. Council ships watched in disbelief as something they thought invincible screamed in silent agony. Myra's voice cracked. It's working. Harrow's weapons can hurt them. But the Seraphim did not flee. They regrouped, surrounding Harrow from every angle, forming a massive shell of darkness, preparing to crush the ship. Harrow responded instantly. Energy limbs burst from its hull, shields turning into glowing barriers, wings folding into razor-sharp spears, core erupting into burning arcs that rewrote gravity itself. The clash of light and shadow shook entire star systems. Ryland shouted over the storm, "Hold on, Harrow's pushing through." And Harrow did. The ancient ship, now merged with humanity's courage and Arcani's memory, broke through the dark shell, unleashing a final pulse that scattered the swarm. The skies above Vala's prime cleared. The people looked up, seeing Harrow's glowing form shielding their world. For the first time in their lives, they saw hope, and the galaxy understood the truth it had always feared. Humanity now commanded the deadliest ship ever built, and for the first time in 4,000 years, the Seraphim had been stopped. Harrow drifted above Vala's prime like a guardian forged from ancient sorrow and human courage, its wings glowing with raw star energy, its hull still crackling with the scars of the battle it had won alone, and its deep humming voice echoing through space like a final heartbeat of the Arcani's civilization. Below it, the Seraphim swarm was scattered, injured, weakened, driven back toward the dimensional tear they had crawled from, but not destroyed. They hovered at the edges of the battlefield, reorganizing, watching with silent fury, their shapeless forms trembling as if tasting defeat for the first time in thousands of years. Ryland stood on Harrow's bridge, breathing heavily, sweat dripping from his forehead, his hands still shaking from the battle. Mira ran diagnostics, her voice low. "Harrow's using so much energy. I don't know how much longer it can hold them off." But Harrow responded instantly, its lights dimming then brightening as if pushing strength into itself, projecting a message through the entire ship. "I will not fall again." That message sent shivers through every human on board. Harrow wasn't just protecting them. It was protecting the memory of a lost world, fulfilling a promise echoing through 4,000 years of silence. Outside, the Seraphim's dark wave thickened, swirling like a storm gathering strength, preparing for a final assault. Their shrieks vibrated through subspace, making the council ships nearby tremble violently. Some alien captains screamed in fear. "We must flee. We cannot fight this. They're coming back. Run." But Ryland shouted across the calm, his voice steady and fierce. "Do not retreat. Harrow is still here." And then the Seraphim attacked. The sky darkened as a tidal wave of shadow poured toward Harrow, forming massive tendrils, spiraling claws, giant wings blotting out every star. Harrow's wings spread wide, glowing with a blinding white energy as its core flared with impossible brightness. The ship unleashed its dimensional shields, layers of folded space wrapping around the vessel like armor forged from the fabric of the universe itself. When the first Seraphim tendril struck, the impact shook galaxies. Light clashed with darkness. Space shook. Reality rippled. Harrow held. Mira gripped her console, eyes wide. "It's holding. Somehow it's holding." The Seraphim tried again, this time forming a spear of darkness aimed directly at Harrow's core. Rylan braced himself, but Harrow roared. A deep, thunder-like vibration that erupted from the ship's heart. The roar tore through the void, slicing the spear apart before it touched the hull. Harrow retaliated. Dimensional blades ignited along its wings, shredding through the swarm with precision and fury, severing limbs of darkness, collapsing void bodies into fragments of dissolved light. The Aerophim screeched soundlessly as Harrow cut through them, one after another. The Council ships watched in awe as the once-rusted relic of a dead civilization fought like a god reborn. But the Aerophim had one final attack left. Their entire swarm gathered into a single colossal form, a giant made of shifting void, towering over Harrow, its wings stretching across the starfield like a living eclipse. Its face, if it had one, formed into a hollow mask of swirling emptiness, and it lunged forward, attempting to swallow Harrow whole. Rylan shouted, "Brace for impact!" Harrow didn't brace. Harrow stepped forward. It bent space beneath itself, forming a platform of compressed reality, standing like a colossal titan meeting the Aerophim head-on. The giant shadow and the living ship collided with a force that made nearby planets tremble. Light exploded. Darkness screamed. Harrow's armor cracked. Aerophim bodies shattered. The shockwave traveled across millions of kilometers. Council sensors failed entirely. Civilians on far worlds saw the sky flash bright and dark repeatedly, like the universe was breathing its last breath. Inside the ship, alarms blared. Power surged dangerously. Mira screamed, "Harrow can't take another hit." But Harrow responded with a soft pulse, projecting a memory of the Arcanis. Scientists, soldiers, children. Faces filled with hope, trusting Harrow to protect the future. And then Harrow showed something new. A vision of humans, Rylan, Mira, the entire crew, standing inside its halls, giving it something the Arcanis never could, purpose with heart. Harrow whispered a final message. "You awakened me. Now trust me." Harrow's core reached critical brightness. The ship channeled every remaining ounce of energy, every memory of the Arcanis, every drop of human courage, into one final attack. The wings folded inward. The armor tightened. Dimensional rings spun faster than light. Harrow unleashed the Starheart Pulse, a beam of pure creation energy, the final weapon the Arcanis engineered but never used. The beam pierced the Aerophim giant, tearing through its void body, shattering its structure, unraveling its existence. The Aerophim screamed as the pulse spread, breaking the dark swarm into nothingness, collapsing the dimensional tear, sealing the wound in space. And then silence. Pure, endless silence. The Aerophim were gone. The tear was closed. Harrow floated in the quiet darkness, its lights dimming gently, exhausted but victorious. Rylan touched the console softly. "You did it. You saved everyone." Mira wiped her tears. "You saved the galaxy." Harrow pulsed weakly, like a tired but triumphant heartbeat. Across the galaxy, messages poured in. Awe, gratitude, fear, respect. The Council broadcast a single line. Shaken, humbled. Humanity carries the hope of the stars. And humanity responded with a message carried across every comm channel, spoken by Rylan but written by Harrow's heart. "We walk the stars now, not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as protectors. If darkness returns, we will stand in its way." Harrow lifted its wings, glowing faintly, and drifted forward into the cosmic horizon. No longer a forgotten relic, no longer an abandoned corpse of war, but the deadliest ship ever created, reborn under humanity's command, walking the stars with purpose, power, and a promise the universe would never forget.